gonna switch my screens. There we go. Right, welcome everyone, welcome everyone. For those of you who are new to my workshops, if this is your first time, here's how the session will run. We start off by doing some quick intros. Some of us have already typed in our intros. And then if anyone else still wants to jump on, if there's anything interesting that you want to announce, you can also come off mute to do that. And then we will jump right into the presentation. There will be time throughout the presentation for Q&A, but there will be time at the end as well. So if you don't get to ask your questions, make sure you do write it down. And then once you get a pause in the presentation, feel free to jump in and pop out your question, or you can just unmute yourself and jump in with the question as well. We should wrap up at 7:30 sharp. Other things that I like to mention for my workshops is I love to hear your insights as well. I don't think that I'm the expert and a know-it-all. I'm sure that there are many things that I don't know as well. So if you have different automations, different tips and tricks, things that you found work well for your organization, do share it. I'm just trying my best to share what I've learned and what I've seen work well with the companies that I work with. Other things to note as well is I like to try to create a safe and welcoming environment in my workshops. So if you hear anyone coming off mute, and if you hear that they have an accent, or if English is not your first language, do bear with them, do be welcoming, and do be inclusive as well. So if you see that anyone is a bit different from you, if they share different perspectives, I challenge you to try to understand why they have that kind of perspective as well. Otherwise, let's jump to community announcements. So does anyone want to come off mute, share anything with the group? You can share things like, some people might say, hey, I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking to hire someone. I've had people share upcoming events, upcoming workshops. So anything that you want to share, feel free to share it right now. It's probably fastest if you come off mute if anyone wants to share anything. Any takers?
I'm from Seattle, but I would like to use this 30 seconds. I'm looking for a job.
Sure, Joey is looking for a job.
Yeah.
Any specific type of area, industry, type of company you're interested in?
Good question. I'm thinking to continue career in tech companies because I really like how technology can change people's life. And I want to utilize my learning from the business school and help the employer to grow revenue. Great. I'm pretty result driven, so I like growth. So I think any business related will be very good opportunity for me.
Great, let's check. Anyone else? This is free time for you to do marketing. You can share anything you want.
Well, I'm Deborah from Brazil. I'm one of Chin's students here at Tamuid Career College for Global Startup. And I'm taking this course with him because I want to develop my own startup that is related to education. I want education to be easy, fun, and reach everyone everywhere through innovation and technology. So I'm here to learn more about innovation and technology.
Great, thanks for introducing yourself, Deborah. Are there specific people that you want to speak to or want to connect with?
People who care about having better people for the world instead of a better world for the people. I think we need to improve ourselves. The world is pretty perfect. So if you think you have any great idea to make people become better,
yeah,
the type of people I want to meet.
I'll paraphrase that ask just to make sure it's clearer. Deborah, if anyone is interested in education, passionate about education, interested in helping people develop, do reach out to Deborah to chat more about education. I'm sure she will welcome any of your feedback and ideas.
Yes, thanks.
Great. Anyone else? All right, I think I will move on. Otherwise, if I didn't capture anything, feel free to type in the chat as well, and I will read it out when I see it. But a bit about myself, for those of you who are not familiar with me, my name is Chen. I run this company called Classy Novel, and my background comes from both corporate sales and startup sales. So I spent the last 5 years working for a social venture incubator accelerator in Vancouver known as Spring. And at the time, I've probably worked with close to 400 companies or so. And I was primarily in charge of helping them with growing and scaling. So supporting them with sales, but also with growing their teams as well. Prior to that, I used to work in corporate sales. So I've worked for both Bell and for Freedom Mobile. And that's a bit of my background. So I think everything that I try to share with you all today is stuff that I've learned, not only with working with startups, but also with the mentors that have come in and speak to some of our sessions, some of the best practices that we've seen in corporate. But I think a lot of what I share should be applicable for any type of business, whether or not you're a product business, a service business, a tech company. I think list building when it comes to finding new prospects is fairly similar, especially if you're trying to do cold outreach. So let's get to it. I'll start with going through the list building process, and then I will talk to you about automation. I want you to notice that this workshop is actually pretty technical. So if I start to use a lot of jargon, or if I use any words that you're not familiar with, please at any time just cut me off, drop in a question in the chat, just let me know if I'm going too quickly or if I'm saying anything that you don't understand. And then we will talk a bit about tools and automation mapping, how to figure out what are the right tools to use, how to select and evaluate tools, and then we will go into a sales stack. This sales stack is my personal recommendation. Of course, there are other stacks, other different tools you can use as well, but this is just what I found to work well, especially in my case. So let's jump onto the list building side of things. To make it easy, I would say that list building is actually not as difficult as you think it is. The high overview is you need to start by finding a list of companies. How you find them, there's many different ways. You can find them through association membership lists. Sometimes it's listed on government websites. You can search up small businesses in Vancouver. You can find something like that. You can do a LinkedIn search. You can find companies in, let's say, fintech space in Seattle, for example. So you can do this kind of filtering and try to find companies. All you really need to do at the start is you just need to find the company name and their website. That's all you need. The next step then is once you know which company you want to reach out to, you need to do some research to figure out who the decision maker is. Decision maker really depends on the type of products and services that you're selling. It could be a manager, it could be a VP of sales, it could be a technical person. So it really depends on what you're selling. But once you know who the decision maker is, then you want to put that name into the list. And then the third step is to try to find their email. And I'll actually walk you through how to do that. Effectively, if you've done 1, 2, 3, you have enough to get started to do your outreach. So you can reach out to them on email, and then you can also try to reach out to them through LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, or whatever else is appropriate. And this process itself, steps 1, 2, 3, they're fairly manual and straightforward. So you can actually automate it. You can automate it by outsourcing to someone on Upwork, or there are other platforms out there as well. And once you've automated the list building process, then the next step is to clean your list to make sure that you're removing duplicate emails, you're removing emails that are outdated, people might have left the organization, you're tidying up the name, the spelling, the companies, that kind of stuff. So I'll walk you through a checklist. And then you craft your email that you're going to send out, and you test it to make sure it's not too spammy, and then you hit send. So that is it in a nutshell. So I'm going to walk you through all of the steps. So list building, many different tools. A few tips and tricks I can share here is, number one is when you search on Google, you can search with like an extension, a file extension, and it will help you try to find possible lists. So for example, I might say restaurants in Vancouver .csv. You might be lucky, and if there is a public list out there that is in the form of a CSV file, you should be able to dig it up. So I couldn't find with CSV, but I know one that I've tried before. So I know B Corporations, B Corp CSV. So this one is a publicly available data set, and it's on this website called data.world. It's actually a list of all the B Corps in the world. And a B Corporation, for those of you who are not familiar, is basically a company that is designated or registered, certified as a B Corp. And these are companies that are actually doing good and actually being able to prove that they can walk the talk as well. So they have different metrics that they have to meet. So you can actually download this list. And I've actually used this file myself, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, about 10,000 companies, 10,000 entries. So you have to do some tidying for the list. Some of them are outdated, some of them have lost their B Corp designation, but you can filter and search and categorize by, let's say, company size, how many employees, things like that as well. So this is just one way. It depends. Sometimes you might not be able to find like a CSV file. There might be other things. So you could say, let's say I was searching restaurants in Vancouver, maybe not CSV, but I might be able to find a bunch of restaurants in other places. So, here you have blogs. There are a lot of blogs. Those are usually best ranked in Google. Let me see if I can find one on the Canadian government website. Let's see. Oh, Better Business Bureau. That's one listing directory you can use. You can use something like this as well. The Canadian website directory of services and businesses. So I mean, this is specific to Canada. So of course, if you're not in Canada, you would have to use something else that's relevant in your country. Most countries have something like this. But let's say BC, let's say restaurants, and it will basically pull you a list, right? So now you know how to find some companies, and that gets you started. You can use other tools. There's this one called Growth Genius. It's a Vancouver-based company as well. They integrate with LinkedIn, and you can see over here filter by things like title, seniority, location, type of company, industry, keywords, technology. So it's pretty powerful. It gives you a lot of different contexts. It gives you the name and the company as well, the title, things like that. You can also just search on LinkedIn as well. If you are doing a lot of searching, LinkedIn Sales Navigator actually gives you a lot more features and more filters, so you can test it out as well. So now you have the list. You have the list of companies. The next step then is to figure out who the decision maker is. It's easiest for you to do this for medium to small companies by going to their website. Most medium to small companies have a team page or about us page. If you go there, usually you actually find the name of like the founder, or the CEO, or whoever the decision maker might be. So that is the first tip and trick. The second one is if you go on LinkedIn and if you search the company, you can see on the right side here, there's usually a button that says see all employees on LinkedIn. And when you click that, it'll pull out all of the employees. So you can see over here, maybe you want to reach out to James, who is the founding partner, or maybe Jessica, right? So you have the name of the person now. So I'm just going to check on the chat because I think someone was posting. Deborah, have you connected with Earth Charter Center for Education? Okay, that's not a question. I'll skip over that. Cool. Sorry, I'm going to continue. So now that you know the company and you know the name of a person, the next step is to guess their email. So there are a lot of different tools out there. One such tool is called hunter.io. There's another one called Piola Norbert. So that's another one. Most of them have limits, and then you have to pay to get more emails. So for example, you can see you get 50 leads for free, and then after that you have to pay. With hunter.io, I think you get 10 or 20 searches a day for free. And so if you're a power user, you probably want to subscribe. Or if not, if you're outsourcing some of this list building, most of the people that you outsource, if they're professional list builders, they will already have accounts with Norbert, Viola Norbert, or hunter.io that will allow them to search unlimited as well. So you don't have to subscribe yourself. You just pay them whatever their hourly rate is, and they can do all the search for you. So I'm just going to close some of these. So when you put in the website of the company in a website like hunter.io, what it will do is it will search the web to try to find any publicly listed email that has a domain name attached to it. So you can see over here, I put in spring.is, which was the company I used to work for, and out came the result, Keith at spring.is, Chin at spring.is, right? I can actually show you in real time. So this is hunter.io. And let me try plant a flag. I don't know if this is possible with your company. Let's take a look. So plant a flag, we put in the website. And there you go. That's the format of their emails. It's usually first name dot last name. So you can see a few different people here. I'm not too sure who they are. But Sahaj, is that correct? Are some of those emails accurate? Not sure if Sahaj is there, but I think he can see it. So yeah, those are some of the emails that you can see publicly. If the email of the person that you're trying to reach out to is not available, of course, all you have to do is just guess based on the format. It's usually fairly accurate. So now you have that, you're starting to build your list. So you have your column, first name, last name, email. You might want to use title depending. You have the website, the company name, and any other relevant field depending on what you're trying to do in your outreach. Sometimes you might have other things like company size, date the company was founded, industry. You don't really need that many columns if you're not using all of them. So only use the columns that are relevant for you. And then once you have the process down and you understand, roughly how many emails you can find per hour, you can actually write down the instructions all and actually send it to someone to have them do list building for you. My advice is if you want to outsource, if you want to get someone else to do work for you, you get what you pay for. So there are list builders who are very cheap, and there are list builders who are fairly expensive. The expensive ones usually do better quality work, but that doesn't mean you can't go with someone who is charging a lower hourly rate. Do know that if you go for a list builder that is charging a lower rate, usually you have to provide more specific instructions. So for example, you have to let them know what to do if they can't find the email of a person. Maybe they spend a maximum of 5 minutes per company and move on if they can't find the right contact or the right email, instead of just wasting their time trying to find the right email. So you give them the list of instructions and then they start to do it. Another thing you can do with outsourcing is you want to test the freelancers that you work with as well. So one thing that I would do is every time I run a campaign, I would actually test it with, let's say, 4 or 5 different freelancers, and I give them all the same project, but maybe a slightly different list. So for example, I might filter my list, and this list is, let's say a list of B Corps with 1 to 10 employees, and I'll give that to one person, and I'll give another person a list of B Corps with, say, 10 to 50 employees. So they're all built lists for me that are all different, so I get to use all the lists at the same time. It's not duplicate entries, but at the same time, I also get to test all of them to see how quick they are with list building. So I'm usually evaluating how many leads they can give me per hour. Second thing I evaluate is the quality of the emails that they give me. Because what happens is some people, they might try to be sneaky and give you duplicate emails. So they do multiple line entries, but it's the duplicate email, or sometimes they actually have a lot of typos in their spelling and the emails are not valid. So you just want to make sure it's good quality emails. You're getting a good number of leads. And then that's how you know who is the right person to continue to work with if you want to keep using more list building. So that's the automation piece. And then now you have your list. The next step is to clean your list. This is my personal checklist. And I think if there are anything else, feel free to add to it. But the first thing I usually do with my list is I remove all duplicates. And duplicates happen for many reasons. Sometimes they accidentally copy and paste twice. Sometimes it might be, one company has a few different emails that belong to the same person. So you just dedupe. And I can show you how to do that in a second. Next thing is, after you remove duplications, you want to verify all those emails, because sometimes there's typo in the emails, sometimes someone has left the organization. And then after you verify all the emails, remove all the dirty emails, you check for the first names. So checking the first name here is, for example, sometimes in the first name column, someone might actually put the full name instead of the first name. So you never want to receive an email that says, hello, Daniel Perret. You probably want hello, Daniel, right? So you want to remove and tidy up the names. Sometimes people forget to capitalize the first initial of the name. So it might be Deborah, but lowercase d. So you want to capitalize all of the first names. So I'll show you how to do it quickly as well. And then after you've tidied up first name, you tidy up the company name as well, if you're using it. So for example, if you say, hey, Joey, I found Amway company, Amway Ltd at, let's say, LinkedIn, on LinkedIn. So instead of saying Amway Ltd, you might say, I found Amway, right? So you would just adjust and remove those like incorporated, Ltd, those extra wording. So the tool that I use to do all of that is called Power Tools. It's a Google Sheet plugin. So I'm not sure if you use Excel if there are other tools, but I think Excel has it built in. You can just use it through Excel. So I'll just quickly try and open up a spreadsheet just to see if I can show you how it looks like. Give me a quick second. So I'll show you a live list that I've been working on. Oops. So I've been organizing a hackathon, and it's a hackathon happening in October, and I've been reaching out to different businesses to participate with. And this is the list that I've been using to build. Oh, it's not opening. Oh, my laptop is too slow. Give me a second. There we go. All right. So to get the add-ons on Google Sheet, there is an add-on section under the toolbar. You go get add-ons, and then you can install it. Give it a second. It's just loading my add-ons. There we go. Power Tools, start. So it has all those features that I talked about. You can dedupe. You can clean your text. So you can do things like remove last name column. Sorry, I'm on the wrong account. This one is a free trial account. But you see over here, for example, Varshney capital. And let's say I want to remove the word capital. I can do that with dedupe, with the text tidying feature as well. Come on, there we go. So under text, you can modify text. So you can remove extra spaces, replace symbols. You can do things like that. You can change case, make everything uppercase. You can split names. You can remove substrings. So like I mentioned, remove Varshney capital, like capital or creative or community. So actually, let me run a test just so you can see what it looks like. Remove capital. Move. And you will see that it will remove that for me.
Ichin, why do you want to remove capital?
Oh no, not remove capital. Like I'm removing extra words, like incorporated, LTD. If it's lowercase, you're uppercasing it as well, so you can do those.
Right. Sorry about that. Okay, got it.
It might be case sensitive, so let me just test that. There you see, the capital disappeared, right? And in this specific case, it really depends on the organization name. So Varshney Capital is probably okay. You know, Pace Creative is probably okay, but like this one over here, Inc. LLP, that's a legal company, so you probably just want to remove the LLP word. So you can remove those kind of things over here as well. Cool. All right, so that's how that works. That shows you how to tidy up your list. And then the next step is once you've tidied up your list, you want to make sure you remove those faulty emails. So the one I use is Block Email Checker. And what it does is if the email is incorrect, it will just tell you, the inbox doesn't exist. So you can see that here in the screenshot. Sometimes in certain cases, you will get what they call, they will say, I think MX unknown. That will happen usually for bigger companies. Because what happens is with bigger companies, usually a tech department will set up a catch-all. And what the catch-all basically does is anytime someone sends an email to their domain for an email address that does not exist, it goes into like the info at inbox or the help at inbox. So if that happens, then there's no way for you to actually guess if that's the right email. So unfortunately, there's no way around that, but you can remove any dirty email just to ensure that you get less bounce. Because if you send out a lot of emails that bounce, it also affects your deliverability rate. And in the end, more of your emails will end up in spam folders if that happens. So you just want to be mindful of that. The last step is once you have tidied up the email, you craft the email then, you actually send a copy of that email to this mail tester, and it will actually rate your email for you. It will rate for the language. It will look for keywords, like if you're using like the word free too often, if you have too many links in the email, if you've been marked as spam on any website, things like that. So it will give you a score to let you know what you can change or improve. You can see if you're not fully authenticated, have you set up your DKIM server settings, all of that kind of stuff. So if you don't know all of these details, I can send you more detail after how to actually set up and authenticate your email address. But basically, those are just some basic things to ensure that your emails don't end up in the spam folder or end up in the promotional folder. And then you are ready to hit send. So my recommendation is if you are doing sales outreach, you want to remember that sales outreach is different from email marketing. And I would say the biggest difference is email marketing. What you're typically doing is you're just sending them like useful information. So you might say like, check out this blog post, check out our new events. We have this program coming up, things like that. If you're sending a sales outreach email, this is usually for leads that you know are qualified. And the way you want to word the email to avoid being spammy or being flagged as, violating CASL regulations or GDP regulations, the idea here is you're reaching out and you're making the email actually sound very personal. So how you can do that is you want to send it through your own inbox if possible, because when you send it from your inbox, it doesn't go through a third-party mail client like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or HubSpot, and it will actually end up in their inbox instead of going to the promotional folder. Because what they're doing is when you're sending with a mail client, they're usually sending on behalf of many other companies, not just you. So usually their servers are marked as promotional emails because other people might have flagged some of those emails as spam. So I won't get into the technical details over here, but emails that come from your inbox basically end up in other people's inbox more often than it will end up in the promotional folder. So when you do this, you get better open rates, better response rates. So to send through your inbox, the ones I know that Google has a mail merge add-on, and Outlook can do it naturally as well. So if you use Outlook, you should be able to do it directly through Outlook. But what a mail merge does, or what it is basically you can send an email like this. So you can say, found bracket company name on bracket platform. And what it will do is it will look into your spreadsheet. And if you say found organization, it will replace that organization with found Varshney Capital on, and let's say if you have platform, it will say on LinkedIn, right? If you say on Facebook, then it will replace it with Facebook. So it will just go down through each row, and it will replace and send different emails and customize it for you. And it will also do things like you can say hello first name, so it will replace with hello Praveen, I found Varshney Capital on LinkedIn. So it makes it a bit more personalized. And then it will send out those individual emails from your inbox. Do you know yet another mail merge is the tool that I use? That's the Google plugin tool, yet another mail merge. This one is fairly cheap. I think it's $25 a year. And you get to send, I think, almost unlimited. If you don't have the paid version, I think you can only send up to 50 emails a day. Yeah. So that's the mail merge. And how it works is basically with the mail merge, I'll show you how it works. So you open it up, you hit mail merge, and it will just look up your inbox that you're on. Oh, I probably have to use the other inbox. So I'm going to close this one. So here we go. So this is with my work inbox. So it will pull from your draft emails. So let me show you my Gmail account. So you can see here, there are a few emails over here, and it basically just checks your draft inbox, and it pulls those templated emails that you want to send out. So you can see here in my draft, you can see I have this email here. And just to let you see how I word things, so it basically replaces organization plus, and then I say, this is the hackathon I'm running. And I say, hello name, I'm the lead organizer of this year's Do Good Business Challenge, and then I, create my email. So that's basically how I do it. So that's the mail merge process. Any questions so far before we actually get into more tools and more process around automation?
Yeah, hey Chin, is there a way that you are able to track your email metrics when you send out emails from your personal inbox?
Yes. So if you use a tool like Yet Another Mail Merge, what it will do is it will track all the emails sent for you. Let me just sort my column here. So if you put in 0, it will basically skip that row in case you want to. I do it if I want to send those emails personally because I know some of those people, and maybe
Sure.
I want to customize it, want to add a few other lines, make some other comments. Over here you can see some of them no recipient because there were no emails over here, email sent. This is just one campaign over here. I didn't actually use Yet Another Mail Merge for this.
Mm-hmm.
But let me see if I can show you another one I did. I don't have it here. Let me dig up.
Sure, this is going out from your Google Suite email?
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have a limit, right? 200 a day or 1,000 a day?
If I'm not mistaken, 1,500 a day if you really go and do a lot.
That's pretty
But it's still a
awesome.
lot. Let me actually pull up a sample. Oops, not this one. I just want to show you what the metrics looks like. So again, with today's workshop, I'm not talking about the tools. I'm not talking about the copywriting aspect of it. But I also do a bit of training around how to craft emails the right way to get a lot of responses. So this is just from one of those workshops. Let me just pull up the results for you. Results. There you go. So I think you can see a screen over here. So this is one of the campaigns I did. 59 emails sent in this campaign, 47 emails open, and then you can see responded. I didn't have any links in the email, so there's no clicks in it. But I was asking them, like, are you raising money? And then I had 46 of the 47 of them actually respond yes or no. So that gives me a 98% response rate. I had some bounces, so that's 5 emails bounce. So yep, it actually tracks all of that kind of stuff for you.
That's awesome, Chin. That's very cool, and definitely will help our team to justify moving to this approach, because currently we're mostly using MailChimp to do our salesy emails, but then it's not working effectively. And I think this is a good way to supercharge that process.
Yeah, I mean, the one word of caution that I'll say is, again, if you're using something like MailChimp, if you're sending bulk emails, just be very careful from sending it from your inbox, because what happens is if it does come across as spammy and people flag your actual emails as spam, it will affect your actual domain instead of affecting the servers that belong to MailChimp. And if it affects your domain, that means every email that you and anyone else from your company sends will more likely end up in the spam folders in the future. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So normally, like when I send it, I try to make it personal. I try to say something like, hey, I'm making a direct ask here. You can see this one, hello, first name, I'm a lead organizer for this. With retail being hit hard, I like to list this organization as a partner organization. I'm not sending them promotional material. I'm actually like making it like a personal email. So that way there's lower likelihood that it end up as spam. No HTML formatting, plain text is the best.
That's awesome.
Cool. Other questions, other comments?
Hey, is there any, you mentioned that text emails are the best. Is that across the board or is
Good question.
Yeah, okay.
I would say that at least from what I'm seeing in data, specific to sales emails, plain text is the best because plain text comes across as being more personal. It sounds like you're just sending a regular email to someone. It doesn't look like a marketing email. Once you have HTML formatting in it, starts to look marketing. It starts to look more pretty. You use HTML because if you are sending marketing emails, usually you want it to look pretty. You want it to be on brand. And if you're worried about, let's say, email tracking, so what happens is Yet Another Mail Merge or other tools like HubSpot, CRM tools, they will include some HTML code to track to see if the email's been opened, that kind of stuff. So those kind of codes are okay. I'm saying visually it has to look like a plain text email.
And you can have links in the text, in the plain text.
Yeah, you can have links, but try not to have too many links. Yes, same workflow should be able to be done by Outlook as well. I haven't actually used Outlook myself, but I do know that Outlook has a mail merge feature, and they've had it for more than 20 years now, so it should be able to work. Yeah. Great. Any other questions? So that's just one process. I think it works pretty well. I haven't found any other method that works better. If you are reaching out on LinkedIn, then the process might be slightly different. I mean, you don't need their email, so you just do email outreach. There are other tools you can use to automate the LinkedIn outreach process where it will help you connect with people automatically. It'll help you send messages to people automatically. So there are many, many different tools for that as well. Great, so let's move on. Let's look at tools and automation. So my recommendation here is when you start to think about automation, the first thing to remember is that tech is an amplifier. I think some people might have heard me say this before, but tech can amplify the good things. It can amplify a lot of bad things as well. So for example, if you're a list building and you say, okay, I build a list of 10 companies, and if I call 10 of those people, 2 of them will actually close and become customers. And I say, okay, I'm going to automate the process. Now I have 1,000 emails. I'm going to automate the reach out, and I can now close 200 of them. Great, all the work done for me. But if you don't optimize before you automate, what happens is you create a lot of noise. Maybe there's another list where instead of 10 and you close 2, you build a list of 10 and you can close 8 people. If you had automated that list instead, you get better quality leads and you create less noise. So just make sure you always optimize before you start to automate. This thing that you're looking over here is called a focus funnel. It's also another thing that I like to use to evaluate different tasks, not only sales related items, but any project, any task that comes onto my table. If I need to create events, if I need to do certain admin processes, I put them all through this focus funnel. And it's introduced by this guy named Rory Vaden. So there's a great TED Talk you can search up. It's called How to Multiply Your Time. And the framework behind it is a lot of people, when they are doing things, they tend to focus on the here and now. They focus on the urgency, like how urgent is the task, and the priority of it. Like, is it something that let's say, sorry, I'm not doing a very good job explaining this, but let me reword it. So for example, if you have an event that's coming up and it's happening on Saturday, so it's very urgent because it's coming up soon, but it may not be important. On the other hand, you might have other tasks that are really, really important, but not urgent as well. But typically people will evaluate projects and tasks based on these 2 dimensions, but they forget to remember that there's also the third dimension, which is significance. How long will something matter? Because sometimes you can work on something that is, not very important, not very urgent, but is very, very significant. So an example of that might be, you might realize that every month you have to set up you have to pay your bills, for example. Every month you pay your bills, it takes you 15 minutes to pay a bill. This is just an example, right? Most people won't actually take 15 minutes to pay a bill. But let's say it takes you 15 minutes to pay a bill every month, and you just haven't bothered automating the process of paying your bill because maybe to actually automate the process will take you 2 hours. So you keep putting it off because, okay, it's just 15 minutes, I'll do it. And if you think about it, if you automate it, if you sit down today and you take those 2 hours to automate your bill payment process, now every month you're saving 15 minutes. So technically, over a period of 8 months, you would have effectively captured all that time. And after 8 months, you're basically giving yourself this extra time now. Does that make sense? So don't think too much about delegation and automation from a perspective of whether or not something is urgent and important, but also think about whether or not it's significant. How long will it make an impact? Because once you consider significance, then people will start to realize that it makes sense to do a lot of these type of things. So for example, another big one that I see with a lot of employees is they say, okay, I'm going to do everything all by myself because it's too difficult for me to hire and train someone new. Because when I hire and train someone new, it's going to take me a lot of time. I don't have the time to train this person. And that's because they're not considering the significance equation, right? Maybe yes, when you hire someone new, they will do a bad job because they're brand new at it. But eventually, if you consider significance, they will get better than you at your job, and they will actually help take that load off your shoulders, right? So that's just all I want to say on the consideration around automation and delegation. The other thing to think about is what can be automated. There's certain things that can't be automated. the things to ask yourself, the questions to ask yourself if you're thinking, should I automate something, is number one is if something requires consideration. So if it requires some decision making, usually it can't be automated unless it's a simple decision. So for example, if you're like, oh, I need to evaluate this client to understand if they fit, if they're a good fit for our company. For those kind of processes, that's why sales, the actual interaction itself can't be automated, because you need to ask them the right questions, you need to ask follow-up questions, and you need to decide like, are they a fit based on our values, based on what we can offer. So in certain cases, you might not be able to do that. But let's say if you have easy qualifiers. So for example, if you know that certain red flags for your customer might be, oh, students are really interested in our products, but they simply don't have the money to pay us. Then you can automate that. And instead of asking them in an interview process, like, are you a student? You can actually have like a form that they fill out before they actually jump on an interview call with you to save you some time. So that helps you eliminate some of that noise. And if someone selects they're a student, they won't actually make it to the demo call, for example, right? So that's consideration. The second one is customization. So if certain things require a lot of customization, it's usually harder to automate. Not necessarily impossible, but usually harder. Make sense? So customization, just to give an example, might be let's say if you are a construction worker, and if a client says, okay, I want to get a quote to do my project, then you might need to do a lot of customization. You might need to figure out, like, do they want paint job? Do they want drywall? Do they want to, break down a wall, remove something, a partition? So there are many different types of customizations that are included. And in that case, it might be a bit harder to automate it. But of course, if customization is simple enough, you can automate it as well. So then how exactly do you figure out how to automate? You can use this framework. And this framework actually comes from Matthew Unger. He is one of the mentors that came into one of the sessions at Spring. And what you do with this framework is you start by mapping out on this map, on the top, what are the actions that your customer takes to become a customer at your company? And then on the bottom, what are your actions? So I'll give you an example, and then I'll show you how to do it. So over here, for example, the customer needs to engage with content. So maybe they need to read a blog, maybe they need to view a video, join a workshop. They click through, they register, maybe they register for a workshop, maybe they download a guide, and then eventually they attend, they pay for your workshop, and then maybe they jump on a consulting call, and then you close it. So that's an example of a user journey. So on the bottom side, if your customer needs to interact with content, you need to create content, right? So you need to create ads, you need to promote your workshops, promote your content. You need to be able to track conversion. You need to be able to get them to collect their email. You need to convert them. You need to mark someone or flag if someone has attended an event, so you know if they're a qualified lead. So these are all the things that you need to do on the admin side in order to meet the customer in their journey. Make sense? So in the middle here, this is just a description, right? So for example here, see a link or ad, click on the link, engage on social, landing page, click through, right? Lead action, submit details, exhibit they are interested, prove to be qualified to buy. So this is just an example of the same thing above. So what you do then is, once you know the top and bottom, you start to identify decision points. So decision points are points where people actually make a decision to move to the next step. So for example, that might be maybe volunteering for an event. Do they attend your event? Do they click on a certain button? Do they download a guide? Do they go to your pricing page? Do they jump on a demo call? So what are those decision points? And then you map out everything that flows into those decision points. So for example, over here, we mentioned engage with content. On the other hand, you are creating ads. So these are the actual things that happen in between. So for example, Facebook posts, AdWords, you're doing Google ads, maybe you're sending newsletters through MailChimp, maybe you're doing Twitter posting. So those are the different items that you actually do. And then for example, you can see over here, there's a product page. They click on some sort of landing page. So there's a WooCommerce product page. There's a Ticket Zone event page. They are volunteering. There's a form to collect information from volunteers. And then you can see there's a checkout cart section. There's a buy your ticket with Ticket Zone. There's a volunteering onboarding email. So these are all the details that happen in between. Does this make sense so far? Good. So the next step then is once you've mapped that out, then you can start to see, okay, if I need all those different tools, what can help me tie them together? So you can see over here, all the event-related stuff can be done by Eventbrite. You can see all the checkout product stuff can be done by WooCommerce. I would even say that all the social stuff over here, like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, could be done with, like, let's say Hootsuite, for example. And then you can see all the automation, like onboarding emails, you know, tracking if someone has attended an event. All of that can be done with Salesforce or maybe some other tool like HubSpot. But this will help you minimize the tools that you use, because what happens is sometimes some businesses get so messy when they try to automate things. They use like 50 different tools. So the idea is if you can try to simplify it, the better. And it also helps because if you create a map like this, when you bring on new employees, it helps them really understand what's happening in terms of the systems. Make sense? So this is how you decide what to select for. And then when you're going out as well, it allows you to evaluate options as well, because now you know, like, for example, you can say, oh, I want a tool that can help me with ticketing, but can also help me with sending out follow-up emails. So when you're evaluating all the different, let's say, event management platforms, you want to make sure that the management platforms can actually help you with email sending, can help you with maybe online events if you're doing online events. So you have a checklist now, and you can evaluate if the tool actually meets your needs or if it doesn't. So that is basically a framework. You can use this template. I'm not actually going to let you go through it yourself, but you can take this and do it on your own time. Any questions so far on the tool and automation side? No?
Are there consultants who do this? Because it looks like a lot for a new team that is doing this to master, in addition to
there are usually automation consultants. That's their official title. I'm not an official automation consultant, but I do know a lot of tools, so I can probably help a little bit, but I wouldn't say that I'm a pro. The main thing that helps is the more tools you know, the better you can select. Other things to consider when you're looking at tools as well is, are the tools like tools from startups as well? Because there are certain tools like, let's say, Airtable is a new database management software, and Airtable is fairly large, so the likelihood of them going bankrupt or failing is low, so you wouldn't lose all your data, right? But if you say, okay, I'm going to use this brand new platform, and I've learned that there's this new platform called XYZ that helps me automate all of this kind of stuff, and you use them, and then 2 months later they don't get enough customers or they don't raise funding and they fall, then certain systems in your business will crash. So you just have to make sure it's not like
right. So there's the firm risk aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, having that map will help you manage things in case things crash as well. So you know, like, oh, if Salesforce stopped working, now I know what I need to replace or what processes have broken down.
This, by the way, is beautiful, if I can say that.
Yeah.
So can I have a question? So for like a startup company, like because they don't have money to hire an agency, marketing agency to do all these things. So like, what is your suggestion on this?
I would say start with either, you can use Product Hunt to find a lot of new stuff. Otherwise, there are a bunch of like tools and checklists. I can actually send you a whole bunch of them. So there are, when we were at Spring, we compiled a list of like, I think 100 different tools that you could use. So yeah, there are a whole bunch of different ones. And normally, like, I'll give you this example. So for example, when I was looking for a social media automation platform, I just searched Hootsuite alternatives. And usually, like, they have like these kind of lists where they have like 7 alternatives that you should use for sort of social media automation. So those kind of things can help you as well. It depends on what you're trying to do. Yeah. But different tools have different pricing, depends on how long you need to use the tool for as well.
Hey, Chin, I like that workflow earlier. Are those all working separately, or are they being glued together by something like Zapier or Automate.io?
Good question. It depends if you need to glue them together or not. But yes, I normally recommend to glue them together with like a Zapier or Automate.io. If you need the information to flow from one platform to another. If it doesn't need to, then it's not necessary to. So for example, if you're doing marketing and all you're doing is posting on social media and you don't really care too much about anything else, then you don't have to tie your Hootsuite account to anything else. But let's say, for example, if you say, oh, I want to be able to track who opens my social posting and put it into my CRM, then you might want to integrate your Hootsuite with, say, HubSpot, for example. Or maybe you might even just say, I'm going to use HubSpot to do everything, because HubSpot can also do social media management as well.
Okay, totally. That makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely use Zapier a lot. Like all my events, pretty much more or less, I'd say 90 to 100% automated. So when you sign up on Eventbrite, if you are brand new to my list, you would have noticed that you were also added to my mailing list on MailChimp. That was automated through Zapier. Yeah.
Did you figure out that piece yourself, or did you hire an automation expert for that?
No, I just did it myself. Fairly easy. Zapier is really easy to use. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say if anyone has any specific automation needs, just let me know. I'm happy to walk you through it if I know it myself. Yeah. So yeah, I think we covered most of the points. Any other questions? And then I'll show you my own stack in terms of what tools I use. So I'm not going to read off this slide, but one point I really want to hit home is when you automate things, just be very careful.
Yeah, Chin, I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I typed it out. I'm not sure if you're looking at the chat.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're in an industry where we usually use our websites less for lead generation, but for conversion.
Yep.
Or the construction industry, for example, we're talking to a lot of people where there's a consultation process, there's a quotation process.
Yep.
There's a lot of design and all those different elements. So we've been thinking about automating it by putting a lot of information on the website. You can try changing the levels of our system, how many units you have, the exterior design, those kind of things.
Yep.
One of our concerns is that the client would just not use it, and that lead to a lost sale, so they close this loss as they're not being engaged. So what are your general thoughts about integration with your website to use it effectively for your sales process?
Yeah, wonderful question. I think that will actually tie into what point I was trying to make is the key here is you don't want to take away the human element of the experience. You don't want to make it too robotic as well. So that's why when you do this, when you map out the customer actions on the top, what you're trying to do is you want to make sure that those decision points, you see the second step is actually to look at the key decision points. And if some of those key decision points need a human interaction, don't automate it. So that's my first advice here. So for example, if you're saying certain things where there are certain things that help you qualify a lead quickly. So maybe you might just ask them like, how big is the project, for example? Or what do you need done? Like, does it need rewiring of your house or replumbing or that kind of stuff? Then maybe those are certain qualification questions that you can ask. And then you might actually want to deliberately jump on a call with them because you want that human element to help you convert more easily. It really depends. And it also depends on how you price your products as well. So what I would say is if your product or service is usually under $3,000, you can automate almost the entire process. If it's more than $3,000, or even like, as a matter of fact, I find that if it's anything over 300, usually there is some element where you need to have a conversation happen at some point in the journey. So of course, the more expensive, the conversation might have to happen earlier along. The less expensive, then it doesn't have to happen as much. So for example, when I used to work for Spring, when we were running entrepreneurship training programs, our programs were usually priced around $750. $750, we would need a quick strategy call with a customer just to make sure that they find that it's a good fit before they sign up for our program. Half an hour, that closes them, right? But I've seen, if you have bigger projects where maybe it's maybe 5,000, maybe 10,000, 20,000, then sometimes you need multiple calls. Maybe you have to do a call to figure out the scope of the project first, and then you need, have another call to actually walk them through how it's going to happen, and then you have another call to actually close them. So there might be a few different more personalized interactions. Another thing I will talk about is CRM tools. Vincent, are you familiar with CRM tools?
Yeah, we're actually on HubSpot.
Okay, great. So with HubSpot, as you know, you can probably integrate it. You can integrate it with your website. and you can map certain behavior. So you can see if someone has visited a certain page, if they've clicked on your pricing page, for example, if they've interacted with a form, those kind of things are all possible as well. So I'll talk more about how to track all of those. But does that answer your question there?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the human interaction part, again, was our concern, and we have it. We just, I think it's just a difficult problem to answer, and I think you came to a similar conclusion as we did.
Yeah.
The reality of our industry is there's high customer acquisition costs, and
Yep.
from a very small number of leads even then, and we're just trying to find a way around it. Like, we
Yeah.
feel a lot of it can be automated, but the reality is if we automate it, we're going to lose a lot of potential sales.
Yeah. I would say what I would probably automate in your shoes would be anything that helps you quickly qualify or disqualify a lead. So if you know that there are certain red flags, those are things that you want to automate. When it comes to customization, then probably that you want to leave as a manual process. If you want to automate anything that will, I would say basically at any point, if your lead is not qualified, that means if you don't know if they're ready, anything before that you try to automate. So for example, if you know that a customer needs to learn more about, let's say for Daniel's example, so I'm not sure if Forte is the same as Conti, but let's say, for example, if it's to do with installing AV systems in your office building, for example. What happens then is if people need to first learn more about, let's say, what video camera I should be using for conferencing tools, or what audio systems should I use to get the best sound system in my house, then those kind of things you want to automate. So for example, they might be in the form of blog posts, maybe it's certain webinars or tutorial videos that you have. And then if people want to get more technical, if you're saying like, how do I customize it for my specific dimensions of my room, then you might want to make that more of a manual process. Then you can actually interview them and say, hey, tell me about your measurements, tell me about the layout of your room, and then you can actually get more human with that. But if it's more like qualifying them prior to that, you want to just educate them, then the kind of stuff you can automate.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do, like you mentioned, we optimize. So we only reach leads that are relevant to us, mid to high rise developments.
Great.
And one of the tricky things with our industry is we don't know where exactly the final purchasing decision will be, or whether or not it's a collaborative action. There's the structural engineers, the architects, the quantity surveyors, the developer, which may be the project manager, or separated from the client, who then could have someone like subcontractors working with us. That's the difficulty of this industry, is there's so many moving parts, so we may need to convince multiple people to be on board.
Great. Yeah. Are you doing lead scoring with HubSpot?
Yeah, we assign a value to cold, warm, and hot leads.
Yeah.
And then we set to do day of like when we're calling them back and looking at conversion rates. Our conversion rates are relatively high. Yeah. For leads. The issue again is there's so much time being spent on prospects and proposals that that's where the inefficiency is.
Yeah. Do you do lead scoring based on behavior, not just based on hot, warm, or cold leads? So
what do you mean by that?
So for example, if you know that someone has been on your website like 10 times versus someone who's been on your website only 2 times.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how to track it back to the company or the lead.
Okay. Okay,
So
I can
that
quickly walk you through some of that then as well.
Sure, that would be helpful.
Yeah. Cool. Maybe I'll just jump into my sales stack and kind of show you a bit more about how to use it. So of course, first thing is, I want you to think about automation from a perspective of amplifying and helping you. Like again, automation should never take away the human element. You use it so that you or your sales team can actually manage more relationships. And of course, it also helps ensure continuity. So if someone leaves the organization, if someone falls sick, then that customer is not left hanging, that there's someone else that can still follow up with the customer, right? So of course, CRM tools, which I will get into, will actually show you and track and help you ensure that there's continuity in the conversation as well. You also, of course, want to automate all of the repetitive tasks, like I just showed you list building, so that your reps are not wasting time building lists and can actually spend more time with the customers and being more human, right? So this is the stack that I use. CRM tool, Salesforce, HubSpot. You can use, if you're a small company, I would say if you have less than 10,000 contacts in your database, I actually personally recommend that you start with a spreadsheet. Don't use any fancy CRM tool, because the reason why I think spreadsheets are so important is once you know how to use a spreadsheet well, you know how to structure your data. The best CRM tool will not help you if you have no idea how to structure your data. I've seen people try to use HubSpot, they don't know what they're tracking, they don't know what to look at, and they just think that it's a miracle solution that they can plug in and it will fix everything. But if you don't know what you're looking at, it doesn't help, right? So start with a spreadsheet first. It'll allow you to understand what you want to track, what data you want to capture, how you want to organize your data. And then once you use a spreadsheet and you get to that 10,000 mark, that's usually when it starts to become too cumbersome and you have enough information so that you know which CRM tool to transition to and how to set it up correctly. So that's just my personal suggestion there. Sorry, someone's posting in the chat. Just to see what that is. Yeah, no problem, Link. I'll record the session. So Calendly is a booking system. Most people have seen it by now. It just allows you to save some time in terms of those email exchanges trying to set up a time. You can use Zoom for meetings. Whereby is another great one. So Whereby used to be called appear.in, and it allows you to jump on calls without having people to install any software like Zoom or GoToMeeting or anything like that. They can just open up their browser. I use Text Expander as well. I'll show you what that looks like. It just speeds up some typing. Phantom Buster is another great one for marketing automation. Hunter, I showed you. Viola Norbert, I showed you as well. LinkedIn, I showed you a little bit. DuckSoup is a Chrome plugin that allows you to automate some of the LinkedIn stuff. Bulk Email Tracker I showed, Mail Tester I showed, yeah, Zapier I showed. So maybe I'll actually show you some of them in action. So CRM tool, first thing is you use it to track your contacts. So actually let me log into my account. I actually don't have the paid account, so some features are not available on mine, but I have used a paid account before, so I'm quite familiar with how HubSpot is set up. So number one is you should use a CRM even if you have a small team. But like I mentioned, a CRM does not need to be complicated. It can be as simple as a spreadsheet. Yeah. Some other ones include Pipedrive, Streak, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp. All of them have different degrees of complexity. What I like about HubSpot is it really allows you to track a lot of things. It allows you to track contacts, your website. It can integrate with your social platforms. But of course, the more you integrate, some features are paid features that are on the marketing or sales add-ons. So just be mindful. And HubSpot gets really expensive really quickly. So just be careful. If you're a startup, they tend to scale pricing based on the number of contacts that you have as well. So if you have like a dirty email list, like you have a lot of contacts and you don't clean your list, then it's going to get quite expensive. Just to give you a sense, when I was with Spring, when we had about 10,000 contacts, it was costing us about $600 a month. So it can be really expensive as a CRM tool. But let's see if I can track this one. So how HubSpot works is when you integrate with, let's say your website, for example, and you can also integrate with your inbox. Those are the two main things. What it will do is every time you capture a lead, you want to put your email into HubSpot. Of course, you can automate this with Zapier as well. So for example, one of the automation that I have is every time someone signs up for an event, they get automatically added to MailChimp. And if they're automatically added to MailChimp, if anyone is added in MailChimp, they also get added to HubSpot as well. So I have like this sequence of events that happens. So basically anyone that is captured into my mailing list will get into HubSpot. So now HubSpot has the person's email. And what happens is if they're logged into their email, and if they interact with your company in places that you are tracking, so i.e. your social media, your website, it will actually put all the info into their profile. So usually what happens is when they track the email, they're tracking based on the cookies that you have. So sometimes you see, they say certain websites, they track cookies, things like that. That's how it's being tracked. And HubSpot does all of it for you. So you don't have to worry like how you set up all the cookies. You just, go to settings, integrate your website, put in your website, and there's some coding that you have to do. You just copy your code, paste it in your website, and it's pretty much done. So let me actually find Lei's personal email, because when Lei is browsing on my website, he's probably using his Gmail account. So actually, no, Lei has not been on my website yet. But you can see he's sent me one email. So it's tracked this email. And what you can do with lead scoring, so to speak to Vincent's point, is you can assign different scores to certain behaviors. all of this is arbitrary and it's all up to you to assign. You decide what behavior makes your lead warmer or colder. But basically, I would say don't overthink it. Don't worry about like, oh, should I add 5 points if they visit a website, or should I add 2 points if they reply to an email? Like, don't overcomplicate it. I would say that at the end of the day, what lead scoring will do is it will be equal across all of your contacts. And all you're really trying to do is just kind of sift through to understand who is interacting with you more often, or who has exhibited really strong behavior, so that you can spend more time with the warmer leads, so to speak. So for example, you can say, oh, if someone has replied to your email, they get 1 point added. If someone has visited your website, maybe it's 2 points each time they visit a page on your website. If they visit your pricing page, so you can assign specific action. So if they visited your pricing page, maybe it's 50 points because they're likely to be a really warm lead, right? If they've attended a webinar, maybe it's 20 points. If they've unsubscribed from your email addresses, then maybe it's minus 100 points, right? So you can assign these random items. And what it will do is it will just help you rank all your leads. You do that under, if I'm not mistaken, so I don't have it here with the free version, but under settings, under sales, should be here, or it's under the sales tab over here somewhere. Yeah, I don't remember, but it's somewhere there. So you can set up your lead scoring. What you are doing with lead scoring is you're trying to do 2 things. So there's the term called MQL and there's a term called SQL. So MQL means marketing qualified leads. SQL is sales qualified lead. So sales qualified lead, for example, might be if you know someone's visited your pricing page, or if you know that they have, let's say, one example would be when I was working at Spring, one of the courses that we had was to teach entrepreneurs how to raise capital from investors. So what we would do is we would offer in one of the blog posts. So the blog post is a comprehensive guide on how to raise money. And then the call to action is, if you are raising capital, here are some templates that you can download in terms of like how to set up your round, legal documents, how to structure your company, things like that. And we know that if someone downloads those templates, they are very likely to be a warm lead. Therefore, we're going to try to call them, right? So that's what we call SQL behavior. So if they've downloaded specific content that indicates that they are actually ready to start to make that decision to buy. MQL might be, maybe someone has read certain blog articles, certain pages, that okay, now that they have read these blogs, maybe you want to send them other content. So for example, you might say, if someone is reading my blog about how to eat healthy, maybe they're ready to learn how to cook healthy. So maybe I'm going to send them a whole bunch of blogs on how to cook. So that's what we call MQL triggers. Then you can set up different automation based on different triggers depending on what you are defining. Does that make sense here on MQLs, SQLs? Cool. Sorry, I'm getting very technical. Automation is a pretty technical thing. Pipedrive is just one of the many CRMs. It's more like a funnel-driven CRM. It is very simplified, but for some of you, it might be enough for you. What Pipedrive does is it's not as complex as HubSpot, but basically it will allow you to manage your funnel. So you can see under here, you have deals. So HubSpot does the same thing as well, but it does a bit more. So what happens here is you can have different items like this company, that company, company A, company B, and you can move them to different stages in the funnel. And what you can do is you can click on the company and you can open up the thread of discussion. So you can see like, oh, what was the last email I sent to this person? What did we say? And then you can follow up with them, right? So it helps you just kind of track where people are in the funnel. What I like about HubSpot that is a bit more powerful is in the free version of HubSpot, you get that same funnel as well. You can also track emails as well. And you can actually just see individual accounts, individual contacts. And this Pipedrive, the main difference is if they're not in the funnel, they're just not being tracked, right? So that's Pipedrive. That's an example of HubSpot over here. I showed you Salesforce. That's another example. Salesforce is very similar to Pipedrive, a lot more complicated to plug in, a lot more technical, and a lot more expensive as well. So more for larger organizations. Calendly, I showed you, it allows people to pick a time on your calendar, choose a time slot, so you don't have to say like, hey, are you available next Tuesday or next Friday? And then people say, oh no, none of those times work, and then you have to go back and forth, right? Zoom, you all know Zoom, not gonna talk about that. Text expander, I love this. I use this all the time for everything, personal and business. And just to give you an example of it, it allows you to basically use shortcodes to create messages. It's a Google Chrome plugin. So for example, I can go, let's see, do I have a P3 over here? No. Some platforms actually disable text expander. Let me pull up LinkedIn. So it looks like HubSpot doesn't allow for text expanders to work, because sometimes when it's working as an app within Chrome, then it kind of circumvents some of the stuff. But let's see this one over here. So what happens is that every time someone connects with me on LinkedIn, I just go P3 and it says that, right? P3, and then I just change, pleasure connecting, John. Why are you connecting with me? It does HBD, happy birthday. So you can do this kind of stuff as well. I have sometimes people ask me for a bio when I'm doing speaking events. I just go bio 1, they paste it up for me, right? So it just saves me a shit ton of time. Like all these small things, you know, 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, it adds up. So I have all kinds of stuff you can do, like for your address.
But I think also, you know, it allows you more than saving time. It will actually increase your bandwidth.
Yep.
Because before you can only respond to 5 emails. Now you can order 50 emails.
Yep.
And then your top of the funnel goes up.
Yep.
All that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you don't want to use a mail merge tool, you can also just use this to copy paste instead, right? So instead of copy pasting, going back and forth tabbing, you can just enter a shortcode, you know, put in the shortcode B1, B2, whatever it is, and then you just customize a few, like change the name, change the company name, and then you hit send. That's all you do. Duck Soup is a Google Chrome plugin that will automate the process. You can do a few things. So you can automate LinkedIn profile views. You can automate connection requests. It can also automate message requests. So I think I removed it because I'm not actually using it right now. But you can see over here, I actually have a screenshot of the bot as it's working. So if you install the plugin and you turn on the bot, you can say, okay, do this search. So you can actually select the search criteria. And then you just turn it on and just open the page. And you turn on the bot, and the bot will actually go in and view each of the profile. And it will just go to the next page automatically. There's a certain limit, like LinkedIn will actually like kick or block your account if you view too many too quickly. So Duck Soup can actually set all of those things for you, so you don't have to worry about, you know, coming across this bot. And the nice thing is you can also have Duck Soup create a spreadsheet for you. So when you're doing list building that I mentioned, where you're like, oh, I need to find all the names of different people at different companies, you can just say, okay, let's say, for example, if you want to do it based on job title instead of company, you say, oh, I'm trying to reach different HR managers, for example. So you search on LinkedIn and you say, I'm looking for people with a job title, HR manager, and you open up the search and you just turn on Duck Soup and it just goes in and views all the profiles and then it creates a spreadsheet. And you have now a whole list of people with different names, different titles, and their company name all done for you. So that's another tool you can use. Zapier, this is one of the ones that I have in my own workflow. I just talked about it. So if they register on Eventbrite, you get added to MailChimp, you get added to my HubSpot CRM as well. Phantom Buster is another one. So it does a lot of data extraction stuff. So one of the things that it was able to do that Duck Soup could not do is, I think with Phantom Buster, it's been a while since I used it, but basically with LinkedIn, each profile is actually attached to an email address. So with Duck Soup, you can't actually get the email, but I think with Phantom Buster, you can actually get it to automate the email process for you as well. And it can scrape the email data for you. So it does this through a whole bunch of automation. I don't exactly know how they do it, but they have a whole bunch of different workflows. Let's take a look. Yeah, a lot of them are like, they have different categories. Profile scraper, see lead generation workflow, message sender. You just use the Phantom and it has the whole thing set up for you. And then you just customize a few fields and you're good to go. So it basically does all of that setup for you. And of course, very simply, also set up email automation for different behavior that's appropriate. So if someone signs up for your newsletter, if someone checks out or adds an item to a shopping cart but doesn't check out, or if they view certain articles or blogs, or if they've been on your mailing list for a certain period of time, you can automate so that you send certain things with them. But yeah, in all due time, really depends on what your capacity is and what you know is appropriate for your customer. That is basically it. I don't want to overwhelm you guys. It is pretty technical. All I want to say in a nutshell is optimize before you automate. So be careful. And yeah, think about how you can use the focus funnel as well, because a lot of times we just don't bother with automating because we're like, it takes too long, it's too complicated, but it will save you a lot of time in the long run. Cool. That's basically it. Upcoming workshops, if anyone else is interested in other stuff, there's one next week. It's actually a pre-recorded one. I'm testing my first pre-recorded webinar. So some of you might have been on that previous workshop before, but it's one on copywriting, so a bit more on how to write good sales emails. I have one on startup ideation, pitching for startup competitions, sales techniques, sales and marketing strategy map, how to find co-founders, so a whole bunch. Yeah. And yeah, I think that is basically it. If anyone else is curious on like, Chin, what exactly do you do? Can you help me with more automation? Can you help me with sales? I'm happy to chat more about that, but I don't want to impose because I know we are at 7:22. So yeah, any questions, any comments? Anyone else want to know anything?
This was pretty amazing. Thank you.
Great, no problem.
It's really mind-boggling. You've done a lot of work on this, and it's very detailed. And thank you for sharing all of this.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always happy to help. And don't worry, guys. Like I don't charge for small stuff. Like if you just have a question like, Chin, how do I automate like setting up this with this? I'm happy to jump on a call, show you, do a screen share, walk you through how to do some of the stuff. Happy to do some of that.
Yeah, thanks, Chin. That was honestly super great. And just for all of you guys, I definitely sort of went to a workshop that Chin hosted about this, I don't know, probably a year ago. And tuning in now still has like loads of new information and it feels more relevant. And so this is stuff you can kind of keep coming back and keep learning from Chin. So thank you, Chin, for sharing your insight.
Thanks. Cool.
Oh, hi,
yeah.
Jin. Just want to say thank you. This is the first time I joined your sharing, and it was amazing. And I'm happy to be your student. I'm learning from you a lot. And thank you again for your sharing. Appreciate it.
No worries. Right. Otherwise, that is basically it. If anyone is curious what else is upcoming, like I mentioned, I have the hackathon. So if anyone is based in Canada, it's a retail hackathon. So it's focused around companies and ideas that can benefit businesses that have some sort of physical space. So if you have ideas that you want to either find a team for, or maybe you want to try to find some companies to work with, that's an interesting hackathon to check out because we do have some partner companies. We actually have WeWork just sign up. So, they could be some of your first clients. So definitely check it out. It's called the Do Good Business Challenge. I'll post the link. I'll post it in chat. There we go. I am also running a sales training program coming up in October. So if anyone wants to go a lot deeper into sales around how to create a strategy, how to set up your stuff, then it's a 1 month long program. It is a part-time program, so you can still do it while you're working as well. But yeah, that's all on my website. So you can just check out classynovel.com. Cool. Otherwise, that is it. If there are no other questions, we can wrap up early and I will go and have my dinner. Great, I think that's it.
Cool, thanks, Chin.
All right, no problem. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you. Bye, Jin.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
your dinner.
Thanks, Chin.
Thank you.